Okay, so we have finished our body as our first part of our design elements. Next, we're to our wings and tail feathers. Challenge, right? So, the idea was to go in and do a tail feather of my turkey. I think I've already taken the picture out. Okay. No, it's a hummingbird. I'm going to take my picture out. Okay. The picture of the turkey has that fan. I'm surprised I've ever taken it out of this series. Okay. Anyway, the fan. And it basically looks like this. Okay. And yes, I've made two already. And I've got to explain that there's two different ways you can do this, and there's a way, if all you have is a 24 peg 3/8 inch gauge loom, you can do the tail feather, but if you have one that is 36 pegs or more, you can do the tail feather, and it might actually be a little easier to do it this way if you have those more. If not, I'm going to show you how to do it on the 24 peg. But I've made two, and the wings, I decided that I wanted to do 19 pegs and cast on and light the first 4 pegs in orange. So cast on in orange, first 4 pegs in orange, and then alternate from black to white the whole time. Okay, and that's what you get. So when we look at that, you see that it's got the peaks of orange usually. Where's my second picture? Ah, there it is, my second picture. The orange doesn't even show up in that one. So the other thing we have to keep in mind is the wings hang down more and the tail feathers sit up high more. And that was something I was looking at because in my SketchUp, I have them sitting above. So technically what needs to happen is the wings need to be sewn on, but when I go to sew on the tail feather, it'll need to be sewn over the top. And that'll need to be sewn underneath. And then we have a third layer, which should get you about here. About here. And that should give you a nice long tail feather. Okay. So generally making those and putting them together, I would say I'm on a good track. So I just need to show you how to make these. Alright, so I've gone in and I've made them, and I'm pretty happy with what I've got. Alright, so let's start with the tail feather. Okay. What I have is two versions you can do, and these are the two versions, and you can't even really tell the difference. One may look slightly smaller. It's just because the gauge between it might be a little different. Okay. So, but it's really not that different. Okay, so you need your green, and yes, I'm using all my metallic greens, and they do seem a little dark on this camera, but in light, they are true to color. Okay, so what I'm going to do is we're going to start off with this. Now, if you have the 36 peg loom, or you have one that is more than 36 pegs, you're good to go because you can knit it flat. But if you don't, it's not a big deal. I'm still going to show you how to go in and knit this. I thought I was going to be fine with this one, just kind of altering the pattern a little bit by changing it from black to white, except I've run into it's white, black, white, black. Okay, so you're doing the two colors in the same direction, and then the two colors in the same direction. which is why I'm going to have to show you how to do it. I won't have to show you how to do the whole thing, but how to go about it. Okay, but you can see that it puts out a real nice variegated texture that you want. Alright, so we're going to start off with our green, and I don't see a hook over here, so I'm going to have to pause the video. Alright, let me go get a hook. I'll be right back. Okay, got my hook. Alright, so let me find that section. Here. There it is. Okay. So the DP that you see here in this, if I can get it to focus. There it goes. That DPK and DPP, what that means is your double peg knitting and double peg purling. Okay? So I'm going to explain how that works. So it says to cast on one and then a double peg cast on one. And you can do that until you have a total of 36 stitches, which means you're just working all the way around. So what that means is you wrap, okay, and then you double wrap, and then you wrap again the same peg, okay. So you cast onto the same peg twice. Alright, now if you have the larger loom and a 3/8 inch gauge, just cast on like normal all the way around. Remember, you're knitting flat. So you just cast on 36 stitches. Alright, so if you're working this, just cast on 36 stitches. Alright, but I like the option that if all you have is a 24 peg loom, you don't feel like you don't have the option there. So you remember you're going to cast on twice onto every other peg. So it's cast on one, and then double peg cast on, where you wrap, and then you wrap again. Okay. And you're going to do this all the way around. Okay. So you just cast on like normal, and then you're going to do like you haven't cast on again on the same peg. Okay. Try not to do things too tight. You're going to have to move that stitch around. Alright. So go ahead and pause the video and finish your cast on, and then I'll show you how to move this. Now, be glad we're not working in the round on this, moving the pegs around, moving the stitches around. It's actually really easy when it's flat. But if you're doing it in a circle, which I've done before, it's a real pain trying to keep up with what's on top and what's on bottom and how you line them up. Okay, so pause the video, get your cast on done, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so we should have every other peg 2 stitches. Alright, pull this down. Okay, so the first row is a knit and then a double peg knit. Alright, but you're going to be basically starting off with a double peg knit. So you're going to knit that first stitch, then you're going to take it and you're going to put it over here. Okay, then you're going to knit the next stitch. And then you're going to go in and you're going to knit next stitch. And then it says a double peg knit. So you're going to knit, and then you're going to move stitch. And then you're going to knit. Okay. Now, you'll have to go ahead and move this one back because you're going to end up needing to knit this stitch. But most of the time you don't have to move the stitch that you've just done. Okay, so you're going to knit one, and then you're going to double peg knit. So you're going to knit the top one, move over, and then knit the bottom one. Okay. And then you knit, and then you knit the top one. You're going to move it over, This what makes it easy. You're moving it over and it keeps it in line so that when you work your way back around, you just are moving it. So you knit one, then you knit the top stitch, move it over, and now if you're on the 36 peg loom, when you see purl or knit, you're knitting the whole row, however many rows, and then you're purling however many rows. On this one, it's you start off with a knit row and then a purl row. So if you're doing the 36 peg loom, if you're doing this one, cast on, knit a row, purl row. Okay. So I'll write in the alternate version if you have the larger loom. It does make it a little easier to do. It is a little faster because it's what you're used to. If you're not used to doing this, it's a little slower. Okay. But you move that over. And once I explain how to do this, I'm going to kind of go over it quickly, and you're going to be left to do it. Okay, when I tell you do so many rows of knit with the double peg knit, that's what you're doing. Okay. Because this could take up a lot of the video if I do this, and I want to include the double, I want to include the duplicate stitch to explain how to do the spots and that kind of thing. So now, when you move it over, you're keeping it in line. Okay, so just keep that in mind. You're keeping it in line. It's all lined up, right? Just remember your last peg over here is on the other side is going to be different. Okay. Now, what I say to do next is to purl. So you're going to purl, and you're going to purl, and then you're going to double peg purl. Okay. So what you do is you purl the top one, move it over, and then purl the bottom one. Now, that means you don't have to do all this weird shuffling that you have to do if you do it in the round. There is a pattern in my animal book where the mermaid's done that way. So just so we don't forget about this one, we're going to move it back over here since we've already worked this. And that way it's going to be easier to deal with when you come back around. So then you're going to purl, and then you're going to purl that top one. Try not to intermingle it. Then you're going to purl the bottom, and then you're going to purl. Okay, so what's happening is you're keeping it in line, okay, where it's all lined up, where it's not getting twisted. And try to stick with this. But again, if you have 36 peg loom or higher in a 3/8 inch gauge, you might want to use it and save yourself the headache of shuffling stitches around. Okay. So, purl, then you purl the top one and move it, purl the bottom one and move it. Okay. It doesn't work any differently going one direction or the next. You just make sure you move that stitch over. So, purl the top one, move it over, purl the bottom one, move it over. And it makes a big difference. Okay. Now, if you're doing the 36 peg loom or higher with your 36 stitches, I'll explain what's next. Again, I'll write it in the pattern with 36 peg loom or higher. because it's knit flat. You don't have to have it be exactly 36 pegs. But when it comes to making the birds, we do knit in the round, so it's important to have the 24 peg 3/8 inch gauge loom because you don't want seams or anything up the side. Okay, so I'll have gone through this really slowly and how to do this, and then I'm going to start explaining how to continue this process, and you're going to be doing this most of the time. Alright, and there, and you're going to purl this stitch. Okay. Now, so in here we do the knit a row and the purl a row. That's what you're basically seeing on that DPP1. It's just knit a row, purl a row. On here, because this is the turkey, it has a change of color, but it's just a solid green. We're not going to worry about color changes. Sorry, I'm recovering from the bug that's going around. Okay. Row 3 is knit, and row 4 is knit, and row 5 is knit, and row 6 is knit, and 7 is knit. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have 5 rows of knit. If you're doing the 36 peg, just knit for 5 rows. If you're doing this, you're doing the shuffle the pegs around for 5 rows, okay? Then you'll do a purl row. So, what that means to you is you're going to knit, and you're going to knit, and then you're going to knit, and you're going to knit to that top one, move it over. Now, keep in mind, we're trying to make sure that we don't overlap, okay? So, I'm going to knit, knit, knit the top layer, and move, okay? So you get the idea. It's the same thing when you're doing the purl, you're just knitting it as you did on the way back. It's no different. Okay, so pause the video, complete 5 rows of knit. Okay, going back and forth like that. And then we'll come back and I'll explain what's next. Alright. Okay. Then we're going to see, we've done our 5 rows of knit, and then we have a 1 row of purl right here. 1, 8, if I can get to focus. 1, 8, you have 1 row of purl, and then you're going to repeat it all again. 5 rows of knit and 1 row of purl. Alright, so if you're doing this one, you want to do a row of purl, and then you want to repeat 5 rows of knit, 1 row of purl. Alright, so you're here, and you're just going to purl 1 row around. Okay, and then you're going to just repeat everything we just did. Alright, so you just start purling your way around. So purl a row, and then go back and do 5 rows of knit, and then 1 row of purl. Okay, so you're going to repeat what we just did over again. And so this is the first section that we've just done. This is the next section. And then we start working our way down. Okay. So after you do, we've done this, and you're going to have done this. After we do this, this is where it's going to get a little easier on this loom and more complicated on this loom. Okay. But you knit 5 rows, purl 1 row, and you'll do that again. Knit 5 rows, purl 1 row, and then we'll be able to start the last bits of it. and it gets easier from here if you're on this loom, harder on this loom, but only for like a single row. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video, purl the row, and then do 5 rows of knit and then 1 row of purl, and then we'll come back and I'll show you, what is it, row 15. That's what I'll show you, row 15. Okay, so we'll go from there. Alright, so pause video and get that much done. Okay, I have completed that, and what I'm going to do is move that over here. It's supposed to be, because at this rate, what we're going to do is we're going to get down to 24 stitches. So if you've been working this for loom, what you need to do is knit 1, decrease. So every other peg needs to be a decrease. So it's a knit 1, decrease over, knit 2 together. Knit 1, decrease over, knit 2 together. And you do that all the way around. Then you're going to lift all the stitches up and bring them all together. There's no space between. And then you're going to snug up your stitches. So if you've done any of my patterns before, like my internal decrease, that's what it's going to be like, except that you're doing every other stitch is going to be decreased, okay? Alright, but if you're doing this loom, this is where it's easier. You simply knit 2 together. Knit 1, knit 2 together. Knit 1, knit 2 together. As you can see, this is suddenly like, whoa, this is like much easier. And you don't have to do all the shuffling at once like on the 36 peg loom, but it's a little faster on the 36 peg loom. But this slows you down a little bit if you're doing the other loom. But this makes it really easy to just go ahead and knit 1, knit the 2 together, and this gets you down to 24 stitches. Okay. And we're getting close to the end of it because most of it has been the 36 pegs. Okay. And I always suggest people, if you don't like doing all this shuffling the stitches around, just get on a larger loom and do it the other way. Alright, now that we've done that, we're down to 24 pegs. Pull that down through there. Okay, now what it says to do, so we've done all the knit 2 together. Now we're to row 16 and 17 is knit, row 18 is purl, and then you knit row from row 19 to row 22. Okay, we're not changing colors, of course. Okay, so you're going to knit for 2 rows, purl for 1, knit for, let's see, 19, 20, 21, 22, 4 rows. Okay, so knit 2 rows, purl 1 row, knit 4 rows, and then we'll come back, okay? So now that we've gotten ourselves down to that, that's what you do on both looms, okay? It's the same on both looms at this point. So again, knit 2, purl 1, and knit 4 rows. Real self-explanatory at this point. And then we'll be finishing up our tail feathers, and then you'll need to make 2 more. Okay, we've done that. Now, on the pattern, it says to do what I call prep decrease, and all that means is you knit over 2, take back that second stitch, toss the bottom loop over, and knit the next 2, take it back 1, toss the bottom loop over, and there we go. And you're going to do this all the way around, which should end you up with 12 stitches. Then you drawstring bind off. Okay, So continue doing that all the way around, and you should go from 24 to 12 stitches. Okay, so pause the video and get that much done. Okay, now that we're done with that, every other peg should be empty, and all you're going to do is go in and toss over, pull your tail through. Okay, and you're going to do this all the way around, and then you will tighten it. Okay. Okay, last one. Alright. Yeah. You set your stitches. That's what you should have. Now, you could probably lightly press these, and then we'll sit flatter. Okay. Now, what you want to do is try to line them up evenly. And you'll want to sew down that edge there over the 3 layers. Okay. That's what you should get. Now, there's 2 ways you can do the spots. You can do a duplicate stitch, or you can do paint. But if you do paint, you can't do the acrylic paint pins. You have to do the you'll need to do the actual like crafter's paint, because this yarn is so dark, it's just not going to show up. The acrylic paint pens are better from blending colors and adding accents. Okay, so I'm going to kind of show you an option. What you can do is you go up in here and you find the base of the stitch. Okay, and don't pull it all the way through. Then you're going to go behind, and then back in again. Okay. Now, this is one option. It will take longer to do it. Okay. Where you go in and you do this. Try not to pull too tight. But you're replicating the stitch, which is what a duplicate stitch is. It looks like it's a double. Okay. So you can go in, you can duplicate the stitch. Okay. So basically you'd want to do 2, 1, and then you'd want to do 2 here. Okay. And then you would do 1 with the blue there. Okay. So this is option 1 to do the duplicate stitch. Okay. Now if you're going to do the duplicate stitch, I'd suggest you do all the orange first and then go back and do blue. Okay. So you come back and then you're going to do blue in here and a duplicate stitch. Okay. Now this is one option of how to go about it. The second option will be acrylic paint. Now, because of what a peacock is, you may want to go with an iridescent. I happen to have it. Take a softer brush if you can, but you're going to dab it on. Okay. So, here's my second option. So, you dab it on. Right. And try to make it thick. Okay. You want to do all your orange spots first. And then you let it dry. Then what you do is go in with your blue. Do a single dot. See? You can do a dot here. Or you could choose to do little rhinestones and that add to it. But there's your two options. This is how to do the spots on the peacock. And looking at it, I think I like the paint version. I can make the spots a lot smaller. So I'm probably going to be doing the paint version of these spots. Okay, but that gives you an idea of how to go about doing that. Okay, so you have two options there. You can do a duplicate stitch, or you can do actual acrylic paint on the yarn to create the spots on the tail. Okay, so pause the video. You'll want to go in, and I think it's going to be easiest to go in and follow between the purl lines and do that, and then you can go in and sew them together, and that completes your tail feathers. And then next we'll need to go over how to loom knit the wings. Okay, so we need to do the wings, and I'm going to show you how to go about that because it's a little differently than the other closed wing. Okay, I've chosen to do 19 pegs, and I'm going to show you how to do that. You are going to cast on with the orange, and typically on one wing you will start by casting on this way 19, which I've already done that method. I'm going to be casting on this way 19, but how you change up the color is no different. Okay, so what you want to do is do your chain cast on. For 19. And 19. Okay. And then your first thing you're going to do is knit a row. Yes, you will do this on the other side too. So you knit your first row. Okay. So you're going to incorporate the first 4 pegs as I've said in my notes. And what that'll do is get you that tip. If you want more of a tip, go more. It's a design decision. Okay, so what you want to do is slip one, purl one, and then slip one, knit one. Slip one, purl one, and knit one. And slip one, purl one, knit one. So that starts acting like normal. You're just doing that over here on the first wing. So purl one, knit one, purl one. Okay. We've incorporated those first 4 stitches. At this point, you're going to change colors. Which one did I do first? White. I'm going to tie on white. And this is where it gets kind of unusual. Okay. So you're going to slip one, purl one, knit one, purl one, knit one. Okay, now you're going to attach your black. Because every other row is a different color. Okay. So then you're going to slip one, then you're going to purl, knit, purl, knit. Okay. Then you pick up over here and you're going to knit one, purl one, knit one. So once you get this color changing started, it's a little tricky. But then after this, it moves really quickly. Okay, so now you're going to pick up your black and you're going to slip that first one. And then you're going to purl, knit, purl, knit, and purl. I'm going to pick up my white over here and I'm going to slip that first stitch and I'm going to purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, and knit. Then I'm going to pick up my black and typically you're slipping that first stitch. So you slip and then you're going to go and purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, and knit. Now, because you're finishing here, you're going to start with the peg you finished with to kind of keep with it. So you knit and then purl, knit. Okay, so you just keep picking up the next color. This way you don't have to do. And now if you don't feel comfortable and it makes it easier to do, like say every 2 rows is black or every 2 rows is white, you'll get the same pretty much look, but the space between the colors will be more. Okay, so you just work your way over. To here, the next one. Then you come back over here and pick up and go again. And you're just going to continue this back and forth until you have completed all your 19 stitches. Now remember, once you get here, you're going to go past the black. Now, typically you start with a slip to go back. So you're going to pick up that black and start with the pearl. Okay. Done this a few times, you should be starting to pick up the feel of how this works, changing colors back and forth. So you're just going to continue this until you don't have any more stitches to add. And remember, when you go to pick up the white, start there. Okay. Work your way back. So I'm going to tell you to pause the video, continue with the wing until you have no more orange stitches, so you're worked all the way over to here. And then I'll show you how to finish up the wing. But you're working the same way when you go in and you do over here. And this is what it looks like on both sides. You could do the same if you want. But go ahead and pause the video and continue this process, and then we'll come in and finish up. Okay. So I've worked my black all the way around here, but I have my white. And what I want to do is do my prep decrease. So I'm going to knit that next stitch and take it back over and get it over that way. And knit the 2, bring it back, move it over that way. You're going to end up bringing all these stitches together and then knitting another row. Okay. Now you can cut the white and tie it off. Then you want to move all the stitches together. Then you'll knit the row, then you'll draw a string bind off. Okay, then you'll knit the row, cut your tail, and then draw a string bind off, and that completes your wing. And I always like to go to the opposite side and pull through. Now, from the looks of it, it's pretty much about the same on both sides. So you can make one on the same side, just flip it the other way, and that'll probably do fine too if you don't want to go through trying to work it one way or the other, but it just adds more of a uniformity to it. Okay, so we've got all our parts knitted. Now it's trying to put the bird together. My suggestion first off would be to do the legs first, then add all the wings and the tail. Now, when doing the legs, you'll need the 16 gauge wire. Doesn't matter which color, you're going to cover it up anyway. And how you want to gauge it is you want to go and do the length of the body twice. And then cut it. And you can cut you a little extra. Okay. And then that's where you'll go to the video how to do legs, and I'll post that below. But you gauge how much you need, and according to this, you'll want your cream yarn to do your legs, hot glue and cream yarn to do your legs. Do 3 prongs for your feet, and then I'll come back and show you how to do a little headdress here and how to sew everything together. So we're almost done. So work on getting your legs done, and then we'll be ready to start assembling the bird. Okay, let me see if I can get everything in a respectable area. Alright, so we have put together the peacock. I have left the wings out like this, but if you want it to be more accurate, you can tuck it in like that, and it does what it's supposed to. Although, personally, I have preferred it out. So, I left it where I could do it either way. Okay. So, I've sewed them on to the side, and you've seen that I've done a opening here, and I've kind of blended in just sewing chunks. You know, I didn't do anything fancy because it's so dark you can blend it in easier. You can see I did my feet, and I chose to do the painting on the tail. You can see that. Okay, so what's left is the crown area. If I can get to focus. And I'm going to show you how to do that, and then go from there. Okay, so what you want to do is cut basically a 2-inch wire. Alright, so, I mean, I've cut one right here. It's 2 inches. I have a workbench that, you know, has the inches. And what you want to do is you want to fold it in half. Okay. And you want to cut 3 of them. And what I've done is I've been weaving it in the top area. Okay. And before I finish weaving it in, I apply a little hot glue. And then I finish trying to pull it through and down. I'll let that sit a minute. And then I'll usually spread it out. Okay. And then what I do is I have these beads. They're seed beads. And what I'll do is apply a little glue to the tips of the wire and put that on. And do the same thing with the other side. Okay. And if you know of a glue that would work better for you, by all means use it. Okay. I'll try to go in and clean it up as much as possible. Okay, I'm going to turn that off and put to the side. Alright, so, I got that, and because it's wire, you can try to position it in such a way that it looks more like what you need. And if you don't like how that glue looks, I think you could go in with a little bit of paint and clean it up. But, yeah. So, let me see if I can get us moved out. Alright, so, there we have it. Here's our design page. All our notes. We're writing everything down. And there it is. We got our tail in, our wings, and our legs, and our crown. Okay? And there you have it. There is how you design and loom knit a peacock. My most challenging bird of the entire book.